Oh, I didn't save the screen. Okay, so yeah, so we have been talking about what is called the linear block code, and the idea was, okay, we are discussing linear code, and we said this is okay. We denoted it by C, and then we said that it is NK code. So the idea is how if there is when the particular code word is transmitted through a channel, then some bits of that code word can be flipped, and then the question would be, okay, how to fix that? So for that, what we said, okay, suppose we have code words, okay, which has length. So here are the code words of length k. So meaning each code word is a string of bits of length k. So the set is basically 0, 1 to the power k. Now, since this is a vector space, if I denote it as V, so this is the vector space over the field 0, 1, or the binary field, let's say, if we call it. So then this is a vector space, and then we said, okay, so this is what is also called redundancy. So if we, for each code word, for each string, we'll add some extra bits. And then once that extra bits, the entire string. So this is n, this is k, and this is n. This is 0, 1 to the power n. This is also a vector space. Let's say W over the same field. Then I said, okay, we'll consider it a linear code, meaning we consider a matrix here. Matrix is a linear map, which will take this V into a subspace here, which is, let's say, some G times V. So this matrix is called the generator matrix.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I had a doubt about one thing. Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, actually, uh, we introduced this distance notion, the Hamming distance,
Mm-hmm.
and using that, we said whenever the weight of R is smaller than the d min, then we can conclude directly that there is an error in
Mm-hmm.
the R.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier we did what we did, we checked R product with H transpose. If it is zero, then we had a conclusion, and if it is not zero, then we had another conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I want to ask is like they both will give same kind of answers. Like if R such that R dot H transpose is not zero, then will it imply that the weight is smaller than d min, or the either way?
No, there is no such relation. So I'll talk about it today. How this minimum distance is connected to the syndrome decoding. That's what I discussed last day. So there is a connection, and that will be discussing today also. So there is one theorem which we'll discuss today. So,
Uh,
but for the d min, yeah,
One way I think it will be like if the d min, if it is smaller than d min, then the product will not be zero.
yeah, because smaller than d min, there is an error. There is an error. We can detect the error. So and then so then there is, so that is not a code word, of course. So then of course that will not be equal to 0. But the
One,
question,
the other way it is not clear. One way implication is like immediate.
yes. So now other way means what? Other way means
If
if it is 0.
no, if the weight is smaller than d min, then it implies that R into H transpose it is not in the in the range space of our code word, or is it is not a code word?
Mhm.
And what I'm asking, if R into H transpose is not zero, then will it imply that weight is smaller than d min?
Oh, no, no, that did not be. That need not be the case. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Okay,
that need not be the
so
case.
one of them, the set of the error they can detect, both of them separate processes, one is bigger than the other.
No, the thing is, so the errors here is, I said here, if this is transmitted, let's say, there's something here from here is transmitted, and you got something here. Okay, then of course there is an error. Okay, then the question are, if it is here also, this is R, let's say, this is received. Okay, so you do not, you are not able to detect whether there is an error or not. It could be error. I mean, maybe this is, let's say, some VJ. This is what you have, what is transmitted. You got this VJ here. Okay, but I mean, this is the original one, but you received R. But since this R dot H transpose, as you said, the syndrome, if that is equal to 0, even if that is there is an error, this is not detected. Now the question is, what are the errors which can be detected? So those are here. Okay, so these error, if the error happens, which is here, okay, so the code word is here, then so there are basically to the power n, because this error undetectable means what? Whatever the error happened, so this is some Vj plus some E, the error. Okay, but this error is inside this subspace, inside this subspace. So that's why V plus E, which is R, let's say, that is also inside the subspace. So this error term, this error vector, this is inside the range of, let's say, G. Okay, range space of G, let's say. So the range of G. So if this is here, okay, the error is here, then it is not detected. But if the error is here, let's say E is the error here, let's say, then this error can be detected because V plus E plus Vj is not inside this subspace, because E is not inside the subspace, it is a subspace. So that's why it is outside the subspace. And there are 2 to the power n minus 2 to the power k approximately, because there is one common. Okay, one means the zero vector is common. So there, this many can be, the errors can be detected. That's what we said. So 2 to the power n minus 2 to the power k, because this is the range and this contains 2 to the power k entries. I mean 2 to the power k vectors of length k, length n. So the remaining ones here, if the error happens from here, so then this can be detected. So this error is being detected. Now the question would be whether we can rectify that error or not. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So what we said is basically, suppose yeah. So okay. What I was saying. Yeah. So this was the generator matrix, and then we talked about something called this H, which is called the parity check matrix. The parity check matrix. We know how to construct it, so I'm not writing it again. So this is the parity matrix or parity check matrix. Okay. And then we said is, okay, so if there is a code word, then the way it is constructed H, so this V times H is equal to 0. Okay, so whenever we receive some R, our first job is, so if R is received, let's say, then the job is to first check the syndrome. So first find the syndrome and check whether this is a 0 or not. So if it is not equal to 0, definitely there is an error. If it is 0, it maybe there is an error, but it is not detected. Okay, so that's the idea. And then we said, okay, so then how do we rectify the error? Okay, suppose error is detected. That means suppose the error is from here, from the set here, 2 to the power n minus 2 to the power k, the complement of the range. So suppose the error is here. That means error is first of all detected. And then what we are trying to do is, okay, then we said, okay, so what we'll do is we have all this 2 to the power n to the power n strings of length n, and then we first divide this thing. This is the background procedure that will in order to fix the error. So this is a partition of the set, and there is there is, let's say, v1 v2. These are the original code words, v3 and so on. We know the original code words, but we do not know which one is transmitted. That's the problem. So these are the original code words, and then once we this R, once we receive this, the receiver, if the receiver receives R, then this he or she will first check whether it is here or here or here. So because it will definitely belong to one of these cosets, one of the subsets. So this subsets we denoted as some DJ. Okay, so DJ we defined as, let's some VJ, and this is how we created the partition E2 plus VJ. I mean, we defined everything last time, so I'm not writing everything. So this one, I think it was 2 to the power n minus k or something like that. So times this VJ. So this will give us the DJ. So j equal to from, let's say, 1 to up to 2 to the power k. So we have this, and once we have this partition and R bar belongs to some DJ, then we'll interpret that the correct code word which was sent is actually the representative one, which is VJ here. Okay, so that was the idea. And so I'm thinking last day we discussed, okay, so suppose the receive vector is R, and suppose the error pattern, suppose the error, so suppose the change the error, let's say suppose the error is, so now error means what here? Error can be, I mean, if you look at the table, this array or something like that, I said this array, if we look at everything, so it is okay, let me write it like v1, okay, is equal to 0 vector. Okay, so it was let's say v1 which was 0, then v2, and dot 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 some v to the power k, and then e2, then e2 plus v2, and so on, and then it goes on e to the power n minus k, and then e to the power n minus k plus v2, and so on. So these columns are basically the cosets, the set of these vectors. Okay, so yeah, so there are 2 to the power k many such sets. Now suppose there is an error happen. So error vector is an n-dimensional vector. So that means error is one of the entries of this entire array basically. So the error is, let's say, x. Then you said, okay, x is something. Okay, something means it's some EL plus something, some VI. Okay, some EL, and some EL could be equal to E1, so which could be 0, and VI also could be some code or anything. Any error can happen. So this is of this particular form. Then then basically, if this is the error, then what happens is the received vector, let's say, the received vector the received vector is, let's say, R, which is, let's some VJ was sent, okay, plus this X, okay, and so then this was actually, yeah, so suppose R equal to some V plus X. So but VJ we know, okay, yeah, so VJ plus this is X was actually EL plus some VI, and then yeah, so then this will give us what is called EL plus some VI plus VJ, and that should be equal to EL plus VS. So the error is detected here. So and then this VS will be treated as the original code one. So yeah, so this EL and this EL, they are the fixed. So this is what we said. Okay, and so finally we said, okay, so the decoding is correct if and only if so the error pattern caused by the channel is a coset leader, and so there are 2 to the power n minus k coset leader. Okay, so they are all correctable patterns because all these errors will be corrected. Okay, so basically we can so observation from all the discussions. Okay, what we can say basically is that any n by nk, this linear code, okay, nk linear code, okay, is able to correct 2 to the power n minus k error patterns That is that much we could say. And then, yeah, and then, but okay, this error it can correct, but how many error it can detect? Okay, so, and it can detect the linear code, it can detect to the power n minus 2 to the power k error patterns. Okay, but it can correct only 2 to the power n minus k error patterns. Okay, and then you also said, okay, that for if n is large, so 2 to the power n minus k is a very small fraction of to the power n minus 2 to the power k. So if n is very, very large, I mean large in a sense larger than k, then of course undetected error will be small. Okay. Now we'll state a result or maybe a theorem, okay, which will connect d mean, their minimum distance, with the table, okay, the table which we discussed, because we didn't connect these two concepts. So let me state this as a theorem, that suppose C is a nk, C is an nk linear code, okay, with minimum distance, let's say minimum distance what at d min. Okay. Okay, then what we want to prove is that all the n tuples, mean all the n strings, basically, I mean strings of length n, okay, of weight is the Hamming weight, let's say some value t, which is d min, the floor function of d min minus 1, by 2, and the floor function of this. So or this or less than this, okay, less than this, can be used as coset leaders. That means those errors as coset leaders, okay, of the array. I think we call it a standard array, of the standard array, okay. And so yeah, so if I mean the strings whose weight is this t or less than t can be used as the coset leader. And if and there are, let's say, and there are, or there is at least, a tuple, okay, of weight t plus 1 that cannot be used as a coset leader. Okay, this is the theorem we want to prove. So this is how the idea of the minimum distance of the code d min, okay, how this is connected to the array, and they are connected by this coset leader, the errors E2, E3, and so on. Yeah, so and the connection is basically, if we know the d min, then we will check what are the n tuples, okay, whose weight is this one or less than this one, then I will use that as coset leader. Okay, so then this is a recipe to construct, the entire table, like which will be E1, which will be E2. E1 is fixed, 0, let's say, E2, E3, and so on. Okay, and then also it says, the theorem says that there is at least one such tuple whose weight is t plus 1, and it cannot be used as a coset leader. So that means it is not guaranteed. If the weight is more than t, it's not guaranteed that it will be used as a coset leader. Okay, so let us prove this. Now, the first observation is, since it is the minimum, so since d min is the minimum weight, so it's the minimum weight of C. So minimum distance means this is the minimum weight, right? So minimum distance means same as the minimum weight that we proved other day. So d min is the minimum weight of the code C. Okay. Now, suppose, because we want to say that if the n tuple has weight less equal to t, then it can be used as the coset leader. Okay. So yeah. So okay. So suppose x and y are two n tuples, or maybe I can just write belongs to 0 1 to the power n. So let's say this belongs to 0 1 to the power n, okay, such that weight of x and weight of y, this is less equal to t. Okay, now if that is the case, then question is, then what is the weight of x plus y? So x plus y, since this is this weight is a norm, so it is less equal to, the Hamming weight is a norm, so it is less equal to wx plus wy. So that means it's less equal to 2 times t. So obviously this is less than d min. Why? Because t is equal to this one, and d min minus 1 by 2, floor of that. So you can take the 2 out. So then it is the floor of d min minus 1. So obviously then it is less than d min. Okay. So now suppose let x, or if maybe, yeah, if x and y. So because I said what we want to prove is, if x, y are having these properties, then we want to say that we want to prove that x and y can be used as coset leaders. That means they should not belong to the same row of the table. So if x and y, okay, are in the same row, are in the same coset, so because each row is called a coset, so are in the same coset, then x plus y must be a code word. Why is that? Must be a code word. Why is that? Because x equal to, let's say, some el plus something, some bj, and y is also some el plus some, let's say, vk. Then x plus y will be nothing but el plus el will be 2 times el, which is 0. So yeah, so then it is vj plus vl, vk, and then bj is a code word, vk is a code word, so this is a code word. So this belongs to C. Okay, so yeah, so x plus y, if they are in the same coset, then x plus y is also a code word. But and what happens to x plus y? But we already know from the previous thing that weight of x plus y is less than d min, and d min was the minimum distance, so, or minimum weight, so in the code word. So x plus y, if its weight is this, so that means it cannot be weight of, it cannot be a code word, because the d min is the minimum weight of the code words. So that means our assumption was wrong. So as what was the assumption? If this is the assumption that x and y are the same coset. Okay, so therefore x and y, okay, are okay and not in the same, are not in the same coset. So if they are not in the same coset, then we can say that they can be used as coset leaders. Okay, so then they can be used as coset leaders. Okay, so this is how we can determine from the d min. Okay, what should be the coset leader. Okay. Yeah. Now what we said is, okay, if the code word, if this, suppose it has a weight, okay, there is an n tuple whose weight is, okay, at least t plus 1. Okay, so that means bigger than t. So then there is such a tuple and tuple that cannot be used as a code leader. Okay. Okay. Now, so in order to prove that, so let us suppose that V is the code word, or V is, let's say, a code word. Okay, a code word such that the weight of V is equal to d min, because d min is the minimum weight. So there must be a code word which attains that weight. Okay, now this is a constructive proof. So suppose there are, suppose X and Y. Okay, X and Y are two elements, or two, let's say, strings, elements of 0, 1 to the power n, such that it follows some conditions, such that first one is X plus Y is equal to the V, and X and Y, okay, do not have non-zero component in common places, in common indices. Okay, and then what we can say, then what is Wx plus Wy? So then this will be nothing but the weight of V. Okay, because this and this, okay, they have same, I mean, so X plus Y is equal to V, and they do not have 1 at the same place. So that means the total V, so X plus Y is equal to V. So that has to be equal to Wx plus Wv. W of X plus Y should be equal to Wx plus W. Number of non-zero entities here plus number of non-zero entities here. That will give you W. And this you already know, d min. Okay. Now suppose, okay, suppose we choose Y such that weight of Y, this is for any xy, I can choose such xy. Suppose the weight of the xy equal to t plus 1. Now what happens if I choose Y such a way? Now 2t plus 1 is less equal to d min, okay, and less equal to 2t plus 2. So that means this, now this is equal to this, which implies W of X, the weight of X would be equal to t or t plus 1. So therefore X, therefore if, let's say, X is used as a coset leader, then Y cannot be a coset leader. So what we are trying to prove here is that the coset leaders, if the weight is basically less than or equal to t, then that can be used as coset leader. How to construct the coset leaders? Okay, but if the weight is more than t, that is at least t plus 1, so then it is not guaranteed that that will be used as a coset leader. It follows from this proof. Okay, so the conclusion is what? The conclusion is that if we have a linear code with minimum distance d min, so it is capable to correct all the error patterns. So the conclusion, here is the conclusion. So because we now know that coset leader is connected to d min, and so coset leaders are actually the errors which our table, the array, okay, can correct. Okay, so the conclusion is then for the for let's say an nkla code, okay, with minimum distance dmin, okay, is able to correct all the error patterns, okay, of this d min minus 1 by 2 this or lesser errors, okay, but it need not correct, okay, so it will not be able to correct okay all the errors, all the error patterns okay of weight, let's say weight t plus 1. So basically why? Because in the previous theorem we had seen that if it is of weight t plus 1, it is, so there is at least one such string which cannot be used, okay, as a coset leader, and our decoding procedure can correct all the coset leaders, the error patterns which are in the coset leaders. So it cannot correct those patterns, okay, patterns having weight t plus 1. Okay, this is the conclusions, and we'll use this in an example. We'll see why this is very, very important for error correction. So this is actually the idea which connects dmin with the error correction, the error correcting patterns. Now we'll prove one more theorem, okay, which is a theorem about the array. Okay, so this is now we'll discuss a property. So a property of the array, of the standard array, and this will be used. So this property will be used. That will be used there. That will be used. Okay, to simplify. Let's say, or just that will be used to the decoding process. Simplify the decoding process. Okay, so what is that property? The property, or you may state this as a theorem. The property is that all the to the power k n tuples, okay. So it has 2 to the power k couples, right? So if you just remember this, what is called this table, the array. So what we have is v1, then here v2, and dot is vk, and then e1 plus v1 dot e1 plus vk, and so on. So number of columns is actually 2 to the power k, right? So now this theorem says all the 2 to the power k n tuples of a particular coset. So this is the coset, this is the coset, and so on. Each row is a coset. Okay. So all these n tuples, okay, which are in a particular row, they have the same syndrome. And not only that, if the syndromes are different, syndrome means the received one times the H transpose. This was the syndrome. Okay. So what it says, the theorem says is, if you pick any n tuple from a particular row, okay, they have the same. For example, if you pick it from the first row, the syndrome is always 0. Okay. So similarly for the second one, third one, okay, if you pick all the n tuples or the strings of length n from a particular row or particular coset, okay, they have the same syndrome. And if the syndromes are different, then of course the cosets are different. Okay. So all the 2 to the power k strings in a row or in a coset of the array, okay, they have have the same syndrome, which is very easy to see anyway. Syndrome, and the syndromes are different. Syndromes are different means the cosets are different. Cosets are different. This is how this is what we're going to do. But proof is very simple, as you see from the structure. Okay, so yeah. So suppose we pick any coset. Okay, suppose the coset leader is, let's say, EL. So Lth coset we are choosing. Okay, and then what happens? Then any entry or any any string in that particular coset, okay, has the form EL plus something, some bj. Okay, this is what it is. So if I compute the syndrome of this, that means if I compute this times H transpose, then this will be, of course, HL times H transpose plus Vj this times H transpose. So which is EL times H transpose, which is very simple. So syndrome of this Vj could be anything from j equal to 1 to 2 to the power k. So it does not matter. The syndrome is this. They have the same syndrome. Okay. Yes, because this is 0, because Vj is the code word. Okay. So everything in a particular row, all the n tuples in a particular coset, they have the same syndrome. And yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, the other part is also very simple. So we want to show that syndromes, if you have two different syndromes, then obviously the cosets will be different. Okay, I think we can skip the proof. Okay, so we can do this. So let's say we have this. So what is happening here then? There is a 1-1 correspondence. The theorem guarantees that there is a 1-1 correspondence between a coset and a syndrome. Right? So the conclusion is, from this theorem, what we can say, conclusion is there is a 1-to-1 correspondence, okay, between a coset and n minus k tuple syndrome. Why it is n minus k? Because H transpose, okay, it is its order is n times n minus k. So n minus k tuple syndrome. So that means, since the coset is decided by the row, so what we can say, just a minute. Hello? Uh-huh. Rim Hazra, right? Okay. So I have I have a class from 3 to 5. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm in a class now. So I am in a class. So what you can do is, tomorrow maybe I'll send, but tomorrow also I have a class from 2 to 4. So the forenoon, during the forenoon session, I mean before 12, you can call me anytime. Okay. Okay, so after 5 I can meet you, sir. No, actually today I have an appointment in the hospital. So I have to, after the class, I have to go to the hospital. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sure, sir. Tomorrow I can call you after 12, right? Before 12. Before 12. Before 12. Okay. Yeah, I have a class from 2 to 4. Okay, so before 12, and I have also a meeting after 4. So okay, sir, sure. Okay, so call me before 12. I will call you after before 12. Yeah. Anytime from 10 to 12, you can call me. Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your valuable time. No problem. No problem. Okay, so yeah, so a coset, what I was talking, yeah, there is a 1-1 correspondence between the coset and and an n minus k intrapole syndrome. But the coset is also one on correspondence with the coset leader. Okay, so basically then that is there is a one-to-one correspondence between a coset leader, okay, and a syndrome, and a syndrome. Now, due to this one-to-one correspondence, what will happen is our job is easy now. Easy in a sense, we can use this one-on correspondence, okay, and then we can rectify the error, because once we know the syndrome that is connected to the error, okay, so if I know that is connected to the error, then let's say the error is EL, okay, so then I'll just add this EL with the R, okay, and then I will get the original one. So R means the receipt one. So this error has happened. So I'll directly get what is the corresponding correct code word. So this is now the algorithm for the decoding. Okay, so then this is the decoding procedure using this one-on correspondence procedure. So what you do is first step is compute the R is the received one. So compute R H transpose, R times H transpose, that is the syndrome. You first compute this. So the second thing is, once you know the syndrome is in one correspondence with the coset leader. So find or determine the coset leader corresponding to the syndrome. So suppose this coset leader is, suppose the leader is EL. Suppose the leader is EL. Then how do you decode it? You just here we add it. Then the correct code word, or the interpreted code word, then the correct code word is, let's say, some notation V is equal to some R, that R plus EL. So that will give you the correct. So this is this algorithm. This algorithm is called syndrome decoding procedure. Syndrome decoding. And this is applicable to any NK linear code. Okay. Yeah. So there are two things which are important. One is how to decide the code word leader, coset leader. That can be determined from the daemon. Once the leaders are, let's say, coset leaders are determined, they are in one corresponding with the syndrome. So basically, from the received vector, received code word, you have to calculate the syndrome. You have to go back to from syndrome to the error, the coset leader, and from the coset leader, you can find the what is the original code. So let us see one example. So the example is, let's say I have, so because you see here, for decoding purpose, H is very, very important, because you have to compute the syndrome. Okay, so you have to compute the syndrome. So H is very important. So let us assume that H is this. Suppose I'm giving an example whose H, the parity check matrix is, let's say, is starting from the identity. So 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. And let's say the others are like this: 1 1 0 0 1 1. This is that P transpose. Okay, 1 1 1 1 0 1. Okay, so I'm giving you then what is the example of, can you tell me what is the value of N and what is the value of K here from the dimension of H? The dimension is 3 by 7, right? So what is the N and K? The corresponding code? C is a linear code of order what? I mean, what is the value of n and k?
7 and 3.
7 and 4. Right? N minus k. N is 7, k is 3, so 4. Okay, so then how many code words are here? How many cosets are here? Now cosets equal to what? Number of cosets that either starting from e1, e2 dot 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 we reached up to e to the power e to the power n minus k, right? Those many rows are there. Today also we said the same thing, but anyway, let us just go back and
8
check.
cosets.
Yes, so that was 2 to the power n minus k, right? Yeah, you see 2 to the power n minus k. I know n, which is 7, and k is equal to 4. So I know what is called the number of cosets, which is 2 to the power 3, which is equal to 8. So what does it mean? There are 8 correctable error patterns. Okay, E1, E2 dot 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 up to E8. Okay. Now what is the minimum distance of this? What is the dmin value of this? So dmin value I also gave you a theorem that looking at the columns of H, you can compute what is called the dmin. And dmin is important here because I need to consider the coset leaders. I know that there are 8 cosets, but I need also to find out the coset leaders. That means those are the error patterns which my code can correct using that decoding procedure, syndrome decoding. So what is the dmin here?
1.
So 3.
3 or 1?
1.
3.
What is the, how do you find it?
We have to look at the columns and minimum columns such that their sum is 0.
Yeah, so it cannot be 1 because there is no 0 column here. In fact, no, there is no 0 column always in the generator, in the parity matrix. So it cannot be 1, it can be 2, but if you add up any two columns, you'll see that it's not 0. What are those columns? If you add that, you will get a 0.
Second last, third last, and first.
Okay, there are many such combination, you can just find it out. For example, you can add this, this, and this, right? And that will give you 0. And if you take, yeah, that's a minimum number, so it is dmin. Okay, so dmin is equal to what I said, dmin is equal to 3, right? So how many error patterns it can correct our code if dmin is equal to 3? What is the value of t here from today's theorem? That can correct up to t, because those t can be used as coset leaders. So that weight, right? So what are the error patterns? What are the weights? Is either 1 or 0. Dmin minus 1 by 2, right? Dmin is 3, minus 1 means 3 minus 1 by 2. So 2 by 2 is 1. So it is either 0 or 1. T is equal to 1. So what we can say is, so it is able to, so T is what? T is this, dmin minus 1 by 2, the floor of that. So dmin is 3 here. So it is able to correct all the error patterns. This is from today's theorem. All the error patterns of weight 1 or 0. Okay, so how many is 7? N equal to 7, right here. So how many 7 tuples are there whose weight are either 1 or 0? Because they will be used as a coset leader, right? So how many are there? Because see, the leader is n length n equal to 7 here. So it can correct this much, either 0 or 1. Okay, these are the error patterns. That means the Hamming weight can be 1 or 0. So how many such error patterns are there? How many such in length sequence are there? Means the string of length 7 is there, the 7 tuples, let's say, whose weight are 0 and 1. How many 7 length tuples are there with length 0 or 1? Okay, of length 0, how many? How many 7 length strings are there whose weight is 0? Weight is 0 means there is no 1. Right? How many? There is only 1. That's a 0 vector. That's the first coset in the table. The first coset leader V1 was equal to 0, right? That is the E1. Okay, that is of length 0. But how many are of 1?
7.
7. Yeah. So basically 7C0 plus 7C1, which is equal to 8. So there are 8 cosets. Okay, and 8 such leaders we already got. Okay, one is 0 vector and others are E1, E2, this E1, E2 up to, let's say, E7, which have weight 1. That means at one position it is 1 and all other places it is 0. Okay, so we got, so then the coset leaders are what? Coset leaders are is a 0 vector and 1, let's say, and everything else is 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this, or you can just say the the identity matrix, the 0, 0, 0, 0, and so on, right? 0, 0, 1, 0. These are this each row of the identity matrix, you can say. So these are the leaders. So that means you can correct these errors. Okay. Now I'm giving an exercise. Suppose, so just to demonstrate the procedure of this decoding. Okay, a decoding procedure. Suppose this is, okay, let me say 1 0 0 1 0 1. Okay, length 7. Okay, suppose this is transmitted. Okay, and let's say R is this 1 0 0 1 1 1 1. Suppose R is received and this is received. Okay, then first of all we need to check whether syndrome is 0 or not, right? So we want to detect V from R. R is the received, R is the received code word, okay, a received string you can say, and B is the original one. So according to the decoding procedure, what we have to do? We have to first compute the syndrome. Okay, once we do that, then we have to find the corresponding coset leader, and syndrome first and coset leader first, and then we have to add this coset, R with this, and that is how to get V. So let us do that. Okay, so first step, first find the syndrome. The syndrome is S. Okay, which will be what? The R means 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 times transpose of H. H was this one. Okay, I have to take the transpose of H. So transpose of H would look like this: 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1, then 1 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 1. You can believe me that this will be this. This will be the transpose. 4 5 6 7. Yeah. So if I compute this, then you can see my vector is what? So first multiply this times this. So this will be, what are the positions here? In this position, I need to check this is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is 1, there is 1. So this will be 0. Same thing I can do. First one is 0, doesn't matter. Second, last 4, 1. Well, this will be 0, 1, 2, 3. This will be 1. And first one is already 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is 0, 3, 1. So it is 1. This is the syndrome. Now, how do you connect it to the course leader? You have to first make a one-on connection with the course leader, right? So how do you make that connection? Okay, let us first give you a table. You have to first find syndrome, and then this is the connection, course leaders. Now, how do you connect it? Syndromes are 3 length sequences. Okay, so syndromes could be 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and what is what is called 101. Okay, so how do you connect this to the course leaders? Course leaders we already know, but how do you connect it? You know the table for the array, okay, and you know that for each array there is only one syndrome, right? So for each array, I mean for each row in the array, there is only one syndrome. You know this error and you know the syndrome. So what should be this one? Course leader. How the course leaders and syndromes are connected? You go to this theorem. Yeah, this one. How did I connect this? This is any row you pick, the lth row. Okay. Then this is what it is, the syndrome. So we just need to check which EL will give you this one, this particular syndrome. The syndrome I know. So what will be the E1? The first one, the first syndrome is, let's say, this one. So with which you should multiply this, the row vector, such that it will give you this. You see that this is multiply 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. There is only one because it has to be of weight 1. So if I weight 1, if I have, then you multiply this with H transpose, and this is what you get, syndrome. From the H transpose, this is H transpose. Okay, so this EL I'm talking about, EL times H transpose will give me this syndrome. Then what is the, this is E1, and what is E2, which will give me 0, 1, 0? This is E2. This is called row. So if you multiply 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, that will give me this one. And you can fill up the table. Now 0, 0, 1 means that I have to take a third one. 0, 0, 1. 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, everything is 0. And actually you can see that this is organized in such a way that you will get all the this thing 0, 0, 1, and all are 0. Then 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then all are 0. Then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. So this is how these syndromes are connected with the coset leaders. Now I already know the syndrome here, which is 0, 1, 1. So what is my coset leader? My coset leader is this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fifth position is 1. E5 is the coset leader. So that means I should get then from the algorithm, from the decoding procedure or syndrome decoding procedure, syndrome decoding procedure. Okay, V should be equal to, say here, V should be equal to, I just have to add this, R plus EL. I already have detected what EL is. I just to add with that. So R was what? R was this one. So 100 and 41. 100 and 41. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus E. E I already have detected is this one. Fifth one is 1. Let us add the fifth one. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth, 0, 0. So if I add this, what do I get? So only this plus will change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This plus. Also the same. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. Let us check whether it matches with the given one or not. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and then 1. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and then 1. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and then 1. So it matches. So you can check for the others. Whatever way you can pick some R, you can pick, and then try use the algorithm to go back to this way. So this is an example. You can practice it. Okay, but I mean, this is very easy also to implement in some sense when n and k are small, because we are nothing. We are only using, I mean, you can use a circuit to implement this because we are only using multiplication and addition. Okay, but when everything can go wrong, in fact, you'll see that this is not a good procedure for decoding. Can anybody tell me why on this algorithm? What is the value of n and k for which it depends? So for which kind of a linear code, this is not a good decoding procedure. See, earlier we said n has to be larger than k, right? But if it is very large, that n minus k is very large, then this is a problem again. Can anybody tell me why? Because you need large storage. Why do we need that large storage? If n minus k is very large. Okay, you can think about that. This is a homework. So, I mean, you can find so the weakness or the limitation, or maybe weakness of the decoding procedure. If n minus k is very large, okay, then this is impractical. Then the syndrome decoding is impractical. So I need to think about other coding procedure. Okay. Okay, why it is large? So I said you need a lot of storage, and in the circuit you need a lot of gates to multiply and to add. Okay, because it's the job of some gates, right, in the circuit. So, and that will be difficult. Now I'll tell you one particular example of a linear code, which is also interesting. And one particular linear code. When I say one particular linear code, that means n and k, they are fixed. Okay, they have certain pattern. Okay, and this coding was procedure was, and the linear coding procedure, I should say, was discovered by Richard Hamming in 1950. Okay, and this is called Hamming linear code, or just Hamming code. So in the Hamming code, I will not say anything. I just say the parameters. And now you have to tell me all the answers. Okay, so here in Hamming code, the code length n, the value of, so it is NK code, right? NK linear code, linear code. Now the coding starts with this n. Here the n value is 2 to the power m minus 1. K is 2 to the power m minus 1. These are the values. So n minus k is basically what? N minus, because n minus k could be big in that case, in the earlier case, in a general linear coding. But here I'm talking about a very special linear coding. N minus k is what? N minus k is just m. And here the dmin will be actually, or maybe I will ask you to do it. So this is what is the Hamming code. So it starts with any integer. Let m be an integer greater equal to 3. Okay, what will happen if it is greater less than 3? Okay, that you can think about. This is a homework. What will happen? Why this? What happens? What happens if m is less than 3? Means m is equal to 1 and 2. So you take any positive integer, let's say 3, let's m, and then you do the linear code, define the linear code in this way. Okay. Now let me say, so since I'm giving, let's say an example. So everything, actually we know everything about Hamming code now because we know the parameters. We know everything. Okay. The question is, first of all, let m is equal to 3. So this is the example. Example, m is equal to 3. Then what will happen? N is what? N is 2 to the power m minus 7. And k is what? K is, what is k?
4.
4. Okay. K is equal to 4. Okay. Now, if I want to construct the parity check matrix H, what should be the form of H? There should be identity matrix and something else, some other matrix. What should be the order of the identity matrix? This should be identity matrix of order what?
K. N minus K.
Yeah.
3.
So it is M. Yeah, it is N minus K. So here it is 3. And there is another matrix here. Let's say this is Q, or you can say P transpose, whatever it is. Okay, Q, or you can say P transpose. What is the order of this? How many columns does it have?
K columns.
K columns. So that is, I want to write everything in terms of M. So this minus this columns. Okay. Now see, if I take M equal to 3, this is in general. So if I take M equal to 3, what is this? Okay. Second thing is, these columns, so these columns, what are the weights of this column? Okay, so let me declare here that dmin parameter is 3. And what are the weights of this column? How it is connected with the dmin? So for m equal to 3, what is h? This is what I'm trying to ask you. First things I know, first 3 columns we know. Then what are the remaining columns? This should be of order 3 by 7, right? This is 7. 7 when m equal to 3. And what are those 4 columns? If dmin is equal to 3. Also, if dmin equal to 3, then here the value of t is actually 1. T is what? Dmin minus 1 by 2 and then floor function. So it is 1. So if dmin is equal to 3, what should be these columns? What are the words? What are those columns? Can you fill it up? Whatever order you want to fill it up, can you just fill it up? Okay, so this is also homework. So the homework is basically about understanding Hamming code, because we talked about linear code, and here you have the linear code itself, but the parameters are of a fixed type. So everything actually we have studied there already. So it's a special case of that. But the question is, what is so special about this one? Why did he choose these parameters? Does it make anything special than any other linear code? So there is a class of codes which is called perfect codes. I'll not talk about in general perfect codes. And this is an example of a perfect code. Okay. So perfect code, a perfect code is a T error correcting. T is this value. Okay. T is this one. What is T? T is dmin minus 1 by 2 and then floor. This is a T error correcting code. If the standard array has error patterns of T or lesser errors, and no others as quotient leaders. In fact, the example we considered here, this was actually a perfect code. Here you see this was 8, right? Number of, T was 8. T was 1, right? T was 1. This value was 1. And so there were 8 coset leaders whose length is 0 or 1. So there was no other coset leader whose weight is more than T. We have proved that if there is any n tuple whose weight is T plus 1, that is not guaranteed to be a coset leader. This we proved earlier. There is at least one code such a n tuple, okay, which is not guaranteed to be a coset leader. But there can be some coset leaders, but it is not guaranteed. So at least one will not be a coset leader. But we did not say that all n tuple sequences or strings, okay, of weight more than T or T plus 1, okay, is a coset leader. Not all, at least one will not be. Okay, so there can be coset leaders whose weight, Hamming weight, is more than T, or let's say T plus 1. And perfect code is such a code whose only coset leaders or all the coset leaders are those n tuples whose weight is less equal to T. And T is what is given in terms of that. Okay, dmin minus 1 by 2 floor. So such a code is called a perfect code. And Hamming code is an example of a perfect code. In fact, you see that perfect codes are very, very special codes. Okay, it is non-trivial problem, okay, to design a perfect code. But Hamming code, that's why it is very, very special. It is already a perfect code. And what is the good about perfect code? You already know all the coset leaders just by knowing the T. Okay, but But if it is not if it's not a perfect code, now then you have to go to t+1, and then after t+1 there are many choices. Okay, that let's say the t+1 will have 10 choices. Now out of that 10 you have to fill the gap. I mean, you have to fill the standard array table, and then you have to choose some of these n tuples whose weight is t+1. Then what to choose, what not to choose. The way you choose it, then the decoding procedure will be able to detect only those part are correct, those particular errors, the way you choose it. Okay, so there are a lot of factors which depend on the list of coset leaders for the decoding purpose, and this is a perfect code through which you can avoid those. And your list of coset leaders is automatically decided by the parity matrix. So this is a special kind of a perfect special kind of a code, linear code, which is called a perfect code. Okay, in fact, Hamming code is a single error correcting perfect code. That means value of t is equal to 1. Okay, so this t value is actually, the value of t is actually 1 for Hamming code. So Hamming code is a perfect code. You can prove that, you can check that perfect code with value of t is equal to 1. Okay, so I'll not say, I mean, everything, whatever you can study about, whatever we talked about linear code, you can do it for the Hamming code. Okay, and see what is going on. Okay. Yeah, and there are other codes also, linear codes, but I think, yeah, we'll talk about now what is called. In fact, there is another code name called Gole code, which is also a perfect code, I think. Anyway, we'll not talk about that code. So we'll try to see different codes, kind of different mathematical principles and how they are related to the construction of different codes. Here we have only used a particular setup, which is the subspace. And now I'll give you a particular example of a code, okay, which is a linear code, but it can be explained in terms of polynomials. All the code words, okay, can be thought of, or each code word, let's say, or can be thought of as a polynomial. So we can, and that will be, the decoding procedure will be easier there. Okay, here I said that it is little impractical when n minus k is large, but I'll call, then I'll consider this new set of linear code, or this particular class of linear code, which is called cyclic code. Okay, so this is also a, here the, as a language, mathematical language will be different. Instead of vectors, treating the code words as vectors, here the code words will be treated in terms of polynomial, and using the mathematics of polynomial or the properties of polynomials, we will design the decoding procedure. Okay, so this is cyclic codes, or some people will also call cyclic codes. So this is an example. This is let's say an important class of linear codes. Linear codes, okay. And this is famous for two reasons. One is the syndrome decoding procedure is easier, okay. And second thing is the fact that the code words are interpreted in terms of polynomials, which are easy to deal with. So we are using here a different algebraic structure, which is polynomials. Okay, so these two things make cyclic codes very, very interesting and popular. Okay, so what is that code? Okay, so it says, okay, start with any n tuple, doesn't matter. Okay, let us say this is an n tuple. Okay, so code here we can always say that it is nk. Okay, nk code, that is not a problem. It's a linear code, so it is nk code. So in length, n tuples are important thing here. How you convert this k length to n length. Okay, but this n length, earlier we only considered a vector space. Here also we will consider a vector space, but this vector, I mean, if we just recall the picture, this was 0, 1 to the power k. and this was 0, 1 to the power n, and this is the range. So this is a subspace basically of 0 to the power n. So it was just ordinary subspace which was defined by, in the earlier case, it was defined by this generator matrix G. But now we'll focus on this particular subspace. We consider a subspace which has a special property, and that property is called cyclic property. Okay. Okay. So, okay. If you consider an n tuple, so let us say V, which is, let's say, what is the cyclic property of this code? We are now talking about that. Okay. So V0, let's say V1 dot dot dot, let's say Vn minus 1. Okay. This is, let's say, any n tuple. Then the cyclic property is that we'll shift the entries of this V cyclically. Okay. What does it mean? If this is V, then I'll define what is called a V1. If I just do one index shifting, so meaning this will come first here. So it will be V n minus 1 and then V0 V1 dot 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 Vn minus 2. So this is a shift. Okay. And this can be also treated by can anybody tell me what matrix should I multiply? If you treat this as a column vector, what matrix should I multiply with this one? Or maybe row vector, whatever it is. So if I multiply a matrix from the right hand side here, if we treat it as a row vector, then I will get this. What is the shift operator? So it will shift only one particular entry. It's called, can anybody tell me? Called a cyclic shift of V. Can anybody tell me what should the shifting operator? No.
The matrix 0, 0, 0, 1 at the last position, that is the first row. And then below that 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, and so on.
Yeah, so actually, okay, if others don't understand it or anyway, doesn't matter, think about it and think that the cyclic is property, this property or cyclic property, whatever it is, this is like a clock. So if you see the clock or the watch, you have 12, 1, 2 up to dot 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 11 and then 12 starts again. Okay, so it is kind of from 0 to 11 if you consider 12 as 0. And then as if you are rotating those numbers from one place, so you are doing one particular shift. So 1, okay, will be replaced by 12 or 0. 12 is equal to 0. 1 will be replaced by 0 and then 2 will be replaced by 1 and so on. So you are just rotating this watch at one part, giving a shift. Okay, this is how it is you are doing. In that case, the value of n is equal to 12. You can think it like this way because this has a very nice property. If you have studied the graph property also, I mean, you have studied the graphs, the combinatorial graphs. So you have there something called a cyclic graph or cyclic graph, right? So in that cyclic graph or cyclic graph, you'll have the same thing. It is like a clock, or the nodes are like the numbers on the watch or the clock. Okay, same thing is happening here, but so we will interpret this using a different language. Okay, because the computation for the syndrome decoding was hard for arbitrary linear code. We want to make it a little simpler. Okay, so that's why we'll be imposing an extra condition on the linear code, which is a subspace, which is a vector space. So this is one shift, cyclic shift. Okay, then we can give another shift, and so on. So if I give I shifts, so that means if the entries of V, okay, are shifted cyclically I places, then what should be Vi? We will get Vi, right? So Vi will be then V n minus I. Now see I equal to, if you put 1, you get this v1 back. Okay, vn minus I, v, yeah, vn minus n minus I plus 1 plus 1 and goes on like this, then vn minus 1, then v0, then v1, v1 and dot 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 up to vn minus I minus 1. This is what you get after I shiftings. Okay, starting from v. V can be considered v0. Okay, so this is, yeah, cyclically you are shifting I places to the right. Okay, you can do it for the left also. This is, you are shifting from to the right. Okay, so v0 was here, so your v0 is doing the shift on the right hand side. You can do it on the left hand side as well. Then v0 will come last. But we are not doing that. We are doing it shifting at the right hand side. Okay, but if you do it using the left hand side, then there will be an equivalence. Okay, that if you this I places shifting right hand side will be actually equivalent to shifting n minus I places left hand side, then they will be equivalent. So if I equal to 1, then for the right, then for the left it is n minus 1. So now we are defining what is called a cyclic code. So the definition is an nk linear code. Okay, it's a C, is called cyclic code if every cyclic shift, okay, of a code word is also a code word, okay, of C or code word in C. So that means there is a set of code words inside C, okay, which is sitting inside C, which are nothing but cyclic shifts of other code words. Okay. In fact, okay, I did not give it. Okay, forget it. I'll give you an example, maybe a very simple example, maybe. C is, let's say, 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 1. Okay, this is a cyclic code. Because see, if you pick this particular code word, you give any shift, doesn't matter, it will be 0 0 0 again. So it is there. If you take this code word, if you shift it, let's say to the right hand side, one shift will give you what? One shift will give you 0 1 1 here, right? And then if you give two shifts here, you'll get back here. So all possible shifts are here. So this can be considered as a cyclic code. Okay. Now, what are the properties of this code? In order to analyze the properties, we'll use the language of polynomial. And how do I define the polynomial? Now, corresponding to let's say a code word v, which is, let's say, v0, v1, n minus 1, define a polynomial. Okay, let's say vx, which is v0 plus v1x plus v2x square plus dot 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 plus vn minus 1 x to the power n minus 1. Therefore, so this is the polynomial now. So the coefficients will give you the code word. Okay, and you see this is in 1 1 correspondence. this code word with the this is actually also called code word polynomial or code polynomial. So this is code word polynomial. Okay, so this is in one-on corresponding. If you have a polynomial of a fixed length and fixed degree, okay, degree is a very difficult thing here because in order to treat this as a degree, but we'll talk about that. Degree is n minus 1 only when Vn minus 1 is not equal to 0, right? So if Vn minus 1 is not equal to 0, then only the degree of Vx is n minus 1. Okay, otherwise means if Vn minus 1 is 0, you do not know about Vn minus 2, that also could be equal to 0 and so on. So then otherwise the degree of Vx is less than n minus 1. Okay, this is one thing to observe. Another thing to observe is the correspondence between code words and the code word polynomial is 1 to 1. Okay, yeah. Okay, so then since we know that code words are connected to code words are having one corresponding with the code word polynomials, why not find connections, and each code word is a shift of another code word, let's say. So then the question would be how the corresponding polynomials are connected to each other, because once you have a polynomial or a set of polynomials, what are the things to look at? The things to look at is polynomial arithmetic, meaning if I multiply two polynomials, if I add two polynomials, if I divide one polynomial by another one, and then automatically Euclid's algorithm will come into the picture, which is like there will be a quotient. If you divide a polynomial by another polynomial, there will be a quotient, there will be a remainder, and so on. So we want to now bring those things here and try to find out the structure of this code in terms of structure of the polynomials. So first of all, let us start with this one, that suppose we start with some v. So this is my notation for v during the entire period when we are talking about this. So v is always fixed like this. V0, V1 up to Vn minus 1. Okay, this is how I'm starting with this one. And Vi is this one, obviously. Then after I shifts. So after I shifts, this is the notation. So if we consider now, so we want to find connections between the code word polynomials, okay, of the corresponding code words, and see what kind of things, what is the structure of the code. So now the code word polynomial, or just the code polynomial, let's say, and the code polynomial of Vi x, okay, of Vi, code polynomial of Vi is given by this Vix, or just forget about this arrow here, just Vix, which is what? Vn minus I. You can see the notation after I shifts. Okay, just thing to remember is that if I equal to 1, what will happen? If you're calling that, you can define this polynomial. That it should be valid when I equal to 1. So then Vn minus I plus 1x plus dot 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 plus Vn minus 1 x to the power I minus 1 plus V0 x to the power I plus V1 x to the power I plus 1 plus plus dot 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 plus v n minus I minus 1 x to the power n minus 1. Okay. Now what we want to do is, now our goal here is find a connection or find an algebraic relationship between Vx and Vix. How the corresponding polynomials or the code polynomials are related. This is what we are going to find now. We know that if we do I shifts to the right hand side of V, then we'll get V to the power I. So now we want to find out what is the connection between the corresponding code polynomials. And in order to find that, what we do is find x to the power I times Vx. So you see, basically what we are doing is we are multiplying x to the power I to Vx. So we know what Vx was, and then x to the power I have to multiply everywhere. So this will be V naught x to the power I plus V1 x to the power I plus 1 plus dot 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 plus V n minus I minus 1 x n minus 1 plus dot 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 plus V n minus 1 x to the power n plus I minus 1. Okay. Now see, this can be written as, and this is an interesting thing, this can be written as following: V n minus I plus V n minus I plus 1 x plus dot 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 plus V. Actually what I'm doing is I'm to find a relationship. So I am first writing down V to the power ix. So the polynomial corresponding to V to the power I after I shift. So this will be, yeah, this will be Vn minus 1 I B n minus 1 x to the power I minus 1 plus V naught x to the power I plus dot 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 plus V n minus I minus 1 x to the power n minus 1. And then whatever the remaining terms, okay, I want to subtract it in order to get this one back. So I first wrote down this is V to the power ix. Now plus, subtract means here plus and minus are same. So I'm writing this to be equal to V n minus I x to the power n plus 1 plus V n minus I plus 1. You can take a small example. If you can take a small value of n and see that how it is happening. Okay, I have to write down the general form, otherwise I'll lose time. So that's why I'm writing general form. But you can check this, writing the taking the value n to is small, like 3, 4. You can check that. Plus dot 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 plus V n minus 1 x to the power I minus 1 x to the power n plus 1. In fact, then this will be same, and in fact this can be written as some polynomial q times x to the power n plus 1 plus V to the power ix. So what I'm having is, this is the relationship. Okay, this is the relationship. That Vx, how Vx is related to the code polynomial corresponding to Vi. So code polynomial of V, how it is related to the code polynomial of V to the power I. It is nothing but if you multiply x to the power I with Vx, then you will get back this one. So as if, okay, so what does it mean? And what is the Qx? Qx can be constructed from here, looking at the value of x and x to the power n plus 1, where Qx is nothing but Vn minus I plus Vn minus I plus 1x plus dot 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 plus Vn minus 1 x to the power I minus 1. So V to the power, so what we can conclude from this? that if we divide this x to the power I times Vx by x to the power n plus 1, then this is the remainder. Okay, this is the remainder. So this implies that b to the power I x is the remainder after or when or while dividing the polynomial x to the power I times Vx by x to the power n plus 1. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I think we'll stop here. So this is the connection between Vi, I mean b to the power I, this one, and Vx. So what happens is this can be obtained, b to the power I can be obtained when x to the power I times Vx is divided by x to the power n plus 1. And this is then the remainder. So then the question is, given any code, okay, if I somehow know, if somehow I define what is called Vx, then I can find out other code words, other code polynomials using this arithmetic of remainder and division. But we will not do that. We'll focus on something else, okay? And that we'll be talking maybe tomorrow. How to get all the polynomials, okay, from using another property of which is called the, for example, one question could be, okay, so what is the minimum degree of a cyclic code? That means if we have the cyclic code C, okay, what is the polynomial which has minimum degree, and how many such polynomials are there? Second question could be, okay, if I identify that what is the cyclic polynomial, a code polynomial, okay, having the minimum degree, then from that polynomial, can you construct the other polynomial using the algebraic procedure using this particular formula? Okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so here you'll require a little bit knowledge of I'll say basic algebra, but if you know ring theory, then that will be good. I mean, set of polynomials up to certain degree. Okay, that also forms a ring, but we will not go into the ring and other things. We'll try to see. Only we'll try to use the division. Okay, that you can divide from one another polynomial, and you can also set up all polynomials of up to some degree. Let's say k. Okay, it also forms a vector space. The set of polynomials of degree, let's say up to 5. Okay, so consider all polynomials of degree up to 5 over a field. Here the field is 0, 1 because the coefficients are only 0 or 1. So then this is also a vector space. So that's how the vector space is preserved, structure is preserved. Now the question is how this code word or the code polynomials are connected to each other, or how they are related to each other. This is what we are going to explore, and then possibly we will talk about a decoding procedure which will be comparatively easier than the other one. But since there is a concept of division here, we need to probably divide polynomial by another polynomial. This is what we are going to do. And then we'll see also, like as I told you, what should the matrix, okay, like if you want to transform from one polynomial to another polynomial. So what should be the generator and parity check matrices corresponding to a cyclic code? And they will have very, very special form because of this cyclic property. We'll also see that. Okay, we'll stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask me now.